Welcome to MJ and Kate on episode 10, International Women's Day. Our show will begin exactly at 9 a.m. Good morning.
Good morning, Michael J. Is
How are
this
you?
week 6? I'm good.
This is week 10,
9, 10.
11.
Or 6. I was hoping it was week 6 because if you don't know, if you guys are familiar with our morning routine, we missed a couple cues this morning. So,
So like our intro.
yeah, that didn't happen
It's
this morning.
uploading, but we wanted to be on time so that we're here. So let's go back and do a little bit of recap here real fast because we were talking about which show we were on. So our first show we did talked about us. It was on us, right? And the second show we did was about human trafficking and how it affects us here in Grand Rapids. And then we talked about Michigan Day and all the places that are great here in Michigan where you can go out and travel and see lots of good stuff. And then we talked about the new place downtown Rockford that's called Poured, and it's an art gallery. Plus, it has an opportunity to have tea. And we also brought on my good friend Craig Slazak, who talked to us about the Tiny Tea Company and how he started his business during the pandemic, which led us to fire and burn safety. Taught, Brought to us by Kate Landis at the Kate Landis Agency, Farm Bureau Insurance. And so she gave us a great presentation on that. And then we had the spring market update for sell houses by none other than Michael J. Williams, who's Speaker Real Estate. And then we had a couple of guests on, Kevin, who remind me his place
Acticare.
again, Acticare. And also our other guest was from Meals on Wheels. And we talked about senior care and about aging in place. And then Kate and I had the big chili cook-off from our kitchens, and we try to learn how to do a couple of different things. And so that brought us last week to talking about Mardi Gras and a Michigan staple punchkis for Fat Tuesday, as well as talk a little bit about the Lenten season. So that brought us to today. And today is International Women's Day. Happy International
That's
Women's Day.
a awesome guest to introduce you to in just a few minutes. But Michael J., you breezed through our recap. Are you ready for a pop quiz? Did you know
Okay,
I
go
was going
ahead.
to quiz you?
Oh, no, I didn't. But
I'm
what
kidding.
is
I'm
it?
not going to quiz you.
You sure?
Yeah. Okay. So
I'm pretty
burn
good at memory.
awareness. All right. Okay. Here we go. Burn awareness, Michael J. Should you sleep with your door open or closed?
You should sleep with your door closed because less things happen with your door closed than with it open. So
Yes.
you're not going to get the
So
smoke inhalation. The door is going to provide you some space for the fire between you and the fire.
yes, the temperature, if you sleep with your door closed, stays less than 100 degrees or around 100 degrees.
Yeah,
And if you sleep with it open, it's like thousands of degrees because your whole room catches on fire. So make sure that you and your children sleep with your door closed, even if they're afraid of the dark. It's important, it matters.
yep.
Okay, what is the housing trend for West Michigan this year? What are we looking at for um, increase in market value?
Market value is going to continue to climb about 5%. I mean, literally, like we're looking at people who have been looking for the past 2 years for the housing market to come down in price, and that's not going to be the case because they're thinking maybe there's going to be another crash like there was in '08 and '09. Well, in '08 and '09, we had more houses than we had people in the country, and now we have more people than we have houses. So that's our biggest issue right now is the number of houses. So uh, we sold in January. I don't have the February statistics, but we sold 600 homes in the greater Grand Rapids area, which we haven't sold that less of homes since 2015. So it was pretty significant for it being a low market, and a huge percentage of those people sold houses in order to buy those 600. So
Wow. Who can use the services of Meals on Wheels?
actually, anybody can use the services for Meals on Wheels, right? They can just call and set up for people who are either coming out of the hospital or somebody that has kind of a need. Is that correct? I
There
remember
is
right?
an age requirement. Yep.
Oh, age requirement. Okay.
Yep, 60 years old, but there is no financial limitation. So if you are homebound, meaning you can't leave your house, and even if it's just one spouse, if one spouse is homebound, then that spouse will get meals brought to them for Meals on Wheels. But you can also go to their dinners that are located out in the community. And those dinners are open to the public, whether you're obviously you have to be mobile because you have to get there. They don't provide a bus to get to the dinners. Um,
We have somebody watching all the way from Willard, Missouri, which is outside of Springfield, Missouri, which is where I went to high school. So good morning.
wow.
Good morning, Ken.
Did Ken go to high school with you? Does he have some dirt on you, Michael J? Some
Who
funny stories?
knows? Who knows?
Ken, feel free to put those stories in the chat for the world to see. Once it's out there, no take backs.
So let's talk a little bit about this video that we're going to show, and it's on Her Voice.
I wanted to show all girls that their value and potential is infinite.
We clear a woman's way. We don't fear the day she steps into the light because we are with her.
Because we are with her every step of that fight.
Women have a special opportunity to live the revolution.
If the first woman God ever made was strong enough to turn the world upside down, all alone.
These women, together, ought to be able to turn it back and get it right side up again. And the men better let them.
You have to stop asking for permission. You have to stop
asking for permission.
Women will have achieved true equality when men share with them the responsibility
of bringing up the next generation.
Doubt and dreams can't ride together. Each will take down the other.
It is said that girls with dreams become women with vision.
because it isn't enough to simply talk about
equality. Let us work at it together, starting now.
That's the history of the world. His story is told, hers isn't. I feel that has to change, and women are going to have to change it.
Somewhere downtown, wish for a better life, unlock the intelligence, unlock the passion, unlock all of the great things that they hold within themselves.
Hashtag Her Voice Matters.
Historically, women have had to speak louder to have their voices heard. 33,000 girls become child brides every day. 40% of women have suffered sexual harassment in the workplace. Only 6 countries give women equal legal work rights as men.
The words we say and the actions we take today can make a difference for her tomorrow. Share her voice and amplify it.
This morning, should we take her out of the green room, or do you want me to introduce her first?
You can introduce her.
Okay, so we have with us this morning Jennifer KEMPA. She is the director of the Surgical Tech program at Baker College. She is a strong woman here in West Michigan. She is definitely a leader that has lots of wisdom to share with our audience, young and old alike, about being a female leader in the medical industry. So we look forward to hearing from Jennifer, and an educator. She's not just in the medical profession. She's also part of the education system. So it'll be great to get some insight from Jen.
So Jen, welcome to MJ and Kate. We have a weekly show. It's every Tuesday, 9:00, live on Facebook, both my Facebook page, Kate's Facebook page, and her business page. It's also live on Twitter feed and YouTube, as well as Twitch, and that's something that the kids use or gamers.
Yeah, so
I guess.
Tyler and Martin's friends can not go to school and jump online at 9 a.m. Maybe their parents can log into their account.
Yeah. So welcome to our show. And like I said, it's MJ and Kate, and we talk about whatever we want to talk about. And today is International Women's Day. So let's talk about what it's like being a girl in your own country.
Sometimes being a girl in this country is hard.
The gender discrimination.
Being judged about who you are. Que te ven muy delicada por ser niña.
I'm constantly told that I'm not equal to boys.
Pues algo difícil para una mujer en México es que existe mucho machismo.
অনেকেই মনে করে যে গ্রামের মেয়ে হিসেবে সে তা পারবে না।
Some boys say that girls can't do soccer.
The boys are playing football there, but I can't. In night, the boys can go market, but I can't because I'm a girl.
People expect me to be somebody I'm not.
You must have everything, the latest magazines, the latest lipstick.
If you're dressing inappropriately, they will give you certain labels. If you have a lot of guy friends, they will give you certain labels.
Many people don't have a lot of expectations from you.
I tell many people I aspire to be a lawyer, and many people tell me, why don't you just become something more simple like a teacher?
You're a girl, you're not supposed to do this. You're not supposed to live like this.
The tendency is wrong because if we want to create a great world, there will be 50-50. Me half and a boy half.
মেয়েদের স্বাধীনতা মেয়েদের হওয়া উচিত মেয়েরা ছেলেরা যেভাবে হতে পারে মেয়েরা সেভাবে হতে পারে
The male lions stay home and watch the cubs and the females go, so why can't it be the same for us?
I try to be as hard as I can to live up to my expectations of myself and not anyone else's.
Just do what you want to do. Don't care about anyone.
One day when I grow up, I hope to be a woman which is happy, kind to one another.
আমার নিজের ইচ্ছা আছে আমি যে বড় হয়ে একটি ডাক্তার হব।
I want to be a businesswoman,
directora, a travel journalist,
architecta.
Some people expect small things from black girls, and I want to change that.
I will be like Malala Yousafzai. I will be like Madame Marie Curie. I will be like Mother Teresa.
So the purpose of our conversation today is really to talk about the challenges that women face in the business, and we're wanting to break the bias, right? So these questions, we're going to get Jennifer's insight as to, how she got to where she is today. So first, and there's a decent amount of questions, but in no particular order. Here's a softball question for you, Jennifer. What advice would you give your 25-year-old self?
The biggest thing I would probably tell myself at 25 is to, I would say, take a good hard look around you and see if you're surrounded by the people you want to be surrounded by. If you're in a relationship, take a good hard look at that relationship, because at that age, you're going to start kind of looking at forever, and so really take a look at your surroundings, at your relationships, at your financial health, see where you are, because at 25, it's kind of time, to start really looking at becoming an adult. And unfortunately, when I was 25, I didn't do that. I was happy, and so I didn't take a look at what was going on around me, and because of that, I did a lot of things later in life than I had planned.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. Having the right people is so important, because if you're around people that are constantly tearing you down and not supporting you, it makes life really hard.
Yes, it does.
It makes it hard to know your worth. And I think that all people struggle with that. So regardless of gender. So yeah, definitely making sure that your groups, relationships, colleagues, everything, it does matter. So that's a great question. So how did you not give up then, Jen? What would you do? What would you say to women to encourage them never to give up?
One of the biggest things that was a driving force for me to continue with education and continue to try to be a leader is never being satisfied with the status quo. I have always worked in healthcare since I was 18 years old. I've been in some sort of supportive role for healthcare. I was a pharmacy technician. I was a surgical technologist. And as much as I loved those roles, they were supportive roles. And I knew that in order to become a leader in any of those fields, it was going to require more education. So prioritizing education and just never really being satisfied with where I was. I knew I was capable of more. I just needed to be able to, I just needed the education to do it. So.
So in addition to education, then what else can women do to help develop those leadership skills?
So this was an interesting conversation that we actually had kind of before you guys went live. And one of the things that I've noticed is, as women, we are almost conditioned to please people, right? We need to make sure that everybody around us is comfortable. Don't wear this, don't say that, don't act like this, because it makes the people around us uncomfortable. And being in the generation that I am, I'm a Gen Xer, which means I was raised by, baby boomers. If you think about that generation, the generation that our mothers came from, they were, encouraged to be seen and not heard, and they passed that on to their daughters. And so really, to develop your leadership skills, you have to break out of that mold, and you have to be okay with making people uncomfortable. You have to be okay with not being liked. And you have to be okay with, you have to understand that it's not your job to make other people comfortable. Your job is to, depending on, with me, healthcare and education, my priorities have always either been my patients or my students or both. So everything that I've had to do from a leadership standpoint, I've had to justify as, is this going to help my students or is this going to help my patients? And it will make people uncomfortable. You'll have to make big adjustments. And you have to be okay with meeting resistance and pushing through that resistance, because ultimately your goal is to make sure that my students are performing and getting the education that they're paying for, or that my patients are getting the care that they require. I mean, in surgery, I don't know if you could be more vulnerable than naked on a table in a room full of strangers while also being unconscious. So you have to make decisions on behalf of that patient, and they may make people uncomfortable, but you have to be okay with that.
So something that you did say while we were talking earlier, Jennifer, was, also, like, and you kind of just touched on it now with when you do experience that resistance, really understanding where that resistance is coming from, right? Like, it's not always because we're women, right? So I'm wondering if you could expound upon that, because I feel like what you had to say was really pertinent.
Well, how to be powerful without alienating people or upsetting them. Again, you have to look at where that resistance is coming from. And as you just said, it's not always going to come from, they're pushing back or not accepting my ideas because I'm a woman. And that's not what it is. A lot of it, if the reasons that they're giving you for resisting, what you're trying to make people do or tell people to do, if their reasons are grounded in fact, not emotion, then you need to look at those facts. But if it's coming from a purely emotional standpoint, like no woman's going to tell me what to do, well, then you just, with that, I think the rest of your question is like, does it even matter? Well, no, it doesn't. Yes, you can, feel bad about making people feel bad, but in the end, it doesn't matter, because it's not about them. It's about that student or that patient. You're advancing an idea to help another person. And it doesn't really matter if the person that, you're offending is mad because, well, no woman's going to tell me what to do.
Yeah, I can tell you, just recently, I did experience that. Obviously, insurance is a male-dominated field. I'm one of, I think, 6 West Michigan women Farm Bureau agents. And I made a call, and the gentleman answered the phone, and I was having someone shadow with me that happened to be a man. So he was the one talking, and he said, Kate is happy to meet with you at this time. And he said, oh, no, no, no. Oh, no, no, no. And, he was like, I'll talk to you. I don't need to talk to Kate. And that was the person I was training. And I said, you know what, this is just not the client for me. And that's okay. I'm not going to be offended. I'm not going to chase after business that doesn't want to do business with women, right?
Yeah, and you see that a lot, especially in medicine and especially in surgery, because when you think about women in medicine, you think nurses. If you think about women physicians, you think family practice doctors. When you start looking at women as trauma surgeons, orthopedic surgeons, a lot of times they'll have a male, resident or med student with them, and the attending physician will address that male instead of the female standing next to them. And it especially happens to female physicians of color, because again, they will look at this woman and think, well, she's not in charge, I'll talk to this guy. And there's a really well known experiment.
As part of an experiment to explore the human mind, we asked 22 people to solve the same riddle and recorded their responses. Feel free to participate also. Are you ready?
The riddle. A father is about to bring his son to a job interview, applying for a position at a large stockbrokers company in the city. Just as they arrive at the company's parking lot, the son's phone rings. He looks at his father, who says, "Go ahead, answer it." The caller is the trading company CEO, who says, "Good luck, son, you've got this." The son ends the call and once again looks at his father, who is still next to him in their car. How is this possible?
He gets a call from the CEO, but it says,
"Good luck, son."
But he was next to him.
So it's not the father.
I think it was probably an audio recording of his father.
Maybe he made a demo tape.
Like he has two fathers?
This is a hard one.
Maybe it's a word joke, like it's the grandfather of the son.
No, I think his name is Son.
I don't know. Maybe it's just like an old man, calling a younger guy son.
I have no idea.
The answer. It's his mother.
Oh, that's so stupid. Yes, of course.
I should have thought of that, yes.
The CEO is a woman.
so I'm biased in a sense. Is this about diversity and inclusion?
It's really mind-blowing, actually.
So I always thought that I'm not very sexist. But in spite of that, I think these subconscious biases are there in everyone's mind.
How much bias I still have in terms of thinking that the CEO needs to be a man.
Yeah, I definitely was picturing a man.
They identify with males more than females these days.
Why can't women also be CEOs or doctors or, right?
When I think about a CEO or someone that's high positioned within a company, I mostly think of men.
And it's a shame, I think.
And that's so weird, because I'm a CEO, and I'm a woman.
But I want to be a CEO. Why didn't I think about that? Crap.
I believe women can absolutely be CEOs.
And that's definitely something that we should work on, especially when you're saying that so many people have been told this riddle and most people haven't gotten it.
Women make great CEOs and great leaders as well. And yet only 5% of Fortune 500 CEOs are women. Let's change.
Yeah, interesting. So because we do want to break those biases, Jen, what are some things, and Michael J too, I mean, definitely engage the conversation. How can we as women work across the divides of opinion? What are things that we can do?
Well, I have to tell you, I was a little kind of remiffed or unexpected, because I put up a picture of me in like a hospital gown, because I had gone in for some sort of like scan, and they put you in the whole like garments or whatever, and of course we're wearing masks too, because it's COVID or whatever. So I posted the picture online, and it was a poll. I was like, doctor or nurse, and 85% was nurse, and I was like Why am I a nurse? How come I can't be a doctor?
You must have a lot of women in your sphere, Michael J.
Something, I don't know. So yeah, so that was kind of like a bias too, right? Like shouldn't I be the doctor? But I think because I did post that on social media and it was my page, people know my character and would think I'd be more compassionate as a nurse than that. But that's what I'm going with. So I don't know. It's kind of my own bias situation, but yeah, I work I live in a house with an executive level stellar wife, and so she deals with biases all day long, in the workplace, because anytime a woman's assertive, it can, for some reason people don't think that's okay.
Exactly, because again, we're still coming out of that generation where it was passed from our grandmothers to our mothers to us. You're supposed to be seen and not heard. And so, and I think another really good summation of what it's like is, if you're a woman who works, you're supposed to work like you don't have children, but you're supposed to raise children like you don't work.
That's
So and we do this to ourselves because we don't want to appear weak. We don't know who we can ask for help. Just because it's not just us that were raised, with that generational construct, it was our husbands as well. So it can be difficult to kind of bridge that whole divide where, this is your place, this is my place. When in reality, we're a partnership and this is a house with children that has work to be done. It doesn't matter who does that work. There's no such thing as like women's work or men's work. It's like I work out in my yard all the time and my husband will do the dishes. I love mowing the lawn because it gives me like 45 minutes of me time.
You want to come down to my house this summer?
You found out our secret.
I know. I put my earbuds in and I listen to my my 90s hip hop, and I'm out there and let's go. Oh, there's a dog toy.
I think that's true. Like, I think recognizing, A, what our past is, and B, like, I think a lot of women are afraid to ask for help. And I think that if we actually started voicing that, yeah, we are strong, but we also need support. And support doesn't make you weak. I think
nope, it doesn't. And I suffered from that for a really long time. I mean, Kate saw me. I was getting my master's degree while working full time and raising 3 kids. There were times I didn't know which way was up, but fortunately I have a very supportive husband because now I'm getting a doctorate and it's the same thing. And fortunately I have a very supportive husband who I will just have this look in my face. He's like, how about you just go downstairs and you read your doctor books and I'll take care of the kids. And I have to be okay with that. And it's not that I'm showing weakness. It's just that, there's a breaking point for everybody. And I'm very fortunate to have a partner who recognizes that breaking point.
So what I was told before, and I'll ask you your opinion as well, but when men in particular are speaking to women, there's a way to ask a question if they are looking for help. So I was told that I shouldn't ask, do you need help? Rather, I should ask, do you want help? And what's your opinion on that?
I think because that still gives you, I like it, but at the same time, it still makes me vulnerable to have to ask, like, do you want help? I still have to say yes. And, my pride may, stick in there and I'll be like, no, I don't need help. But at the same time, that's on me. Like, I have to be okay asking for help. I have to be okay with understanding. That doesn't mean that I'm weak. I just, I need help. I can't do all of this by myself. So it's kind of a two-way thing. I think a lot of this too, the whole, opinions and bias, it comes from a sense of not wanting to appear a certain way. Like, I don't want to appear weak. But at the same time, Michael J., if you needed help and you had to come to me, there's you need a woman to help you, and so, it's both of that. And really, it's just one of those things where you just kind of have to like, I just need help. And she's a subject matter expert. So I'm going to ask her. And the same thing with me. It's like, if I need help, selling my house, well, am I going to go to my next door neighbor and be like, hey, I know you don't know anything about houses, but hey, how do I sell it? No, I'm going to go to a subject matter expert. And so it's also recognizing that, we're not asking for help to appear weak. It's just, you have to admit that you don't know everything and you need help.
What?
What? I know. I know everything. I mean, I'm pretty killer at like some trivia.
So go ahead, Michael J.
No, go ahead.
No, you first.
Well, I'm just going to share this photo here. Ta-da! So these are my first ladies.
Aww.
So my wife Sherry and my youngest daughter Kaylin and my oldest daughter Kimberly. And so
Kaylin looks thrilled that you're taking her picture.
She does. She does. She was not happy about where we were at. Let me give you a background. So we are at the American History Museum in Washington, D.C. And in the American History Museum on the top floor is a section called the First Ladies. And so it's all about the president's wives in there. And they have some of their gowns and kind of some of the things that they did and that sort of thing. And Kimberly was super excited to read about everything. And Kimberly, she's a reader. She likes to read everything. And Kaylin, she just wants to see the next thing. So she saw something across the way that she wanted to go to, but we have to like coach everybody. Okay, we will get there, but right now this is what we're doing. So, they have a very strong mother, so that's a plus for them growing up. But what about other young girls? What are some things that you might encourage them as they start to age and go into careers and that sort of thing? What sort of advice would you give the next generation of female leaders?
I would tell them to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, just because we're not out of that generational thing. So be comfortable being uncomfortable, and growth is painful, and being uncomfortable can be painful at times, but making sure that you understand that what you're doing is right. If it's coming from a good place, then what you're doing is correct. And even if you meet resistance, it's okay. Be comfortable being uncomfortable, because we don't have. I mean, the next generation is going to have a lot more role models, as far as leadership, than what we had, in our generation. So you have to see it in order to be it. So it would be a little bit easier for them, but they just have to understand that it's going to be uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. And it takes work, right? I think a lot of women think that they should just be able to show up. Showing up is the first step.
Exactly.
But then that growth part and that takes work. That takes energy on your part. No one else can do that for you.
Yep.
And seeking out someone who you can walk beside that can hold you accountable to that path of leadership, I think really does matter.
Yep. It does take work. And like you said, just showing up. If I were to just show up to the operating room, I mean, it's not like
I'd be terrified.
It takes work. You have to be able to assert yourself in a male-dominated environment, and then be comfortable being uncomfortable. Same thing. If I were to just show up to the classroom, like, okay, you guys, I'm here, everything's fine. No, it takes work. It takes preparation. I love that your daughter's a reader, because really it's all what it is. It's reading, learning, retaining information, and applying it to your situation.
So she wasn't happy with us that she'd been given a digital device and her reading had went way down. She wasn't reading as much. And so we actually went back and set time limits. Okay, you can have 2.5 hours per day, and however you want to spend that 2.5 hours on that phone, you can spend it. So then once her time expired, she found interest in a new book, and the next thing we knew, she had read all 4 books in the series. So
yep.
we're just taking that sort of step kind of for that. Kate, you had mentioned something about the Women's Expo that's coming up here locally, and it's going to be here in the West Michigan area on the 18th through the 20th. And there's the website down there. Is there something you wanted to mention about that, Kate?
It'll be at DeVos Place. You will be supporting other women in business. So I recommend you go take your daughters, let them see what is out there. Lots of opportunity just to engage with women in business. So that's at the Women's Expo, March 18th at the DeVos Place. Jen, before you go, I want to remind everyone that Jen is from the surgical tech program at Baker College. And I would love for you to get a chance to give your program a shameless plug.
Absolutely. So what's funny though is, I come from, a medical background, but I'm from like the obscure medical background that nobody knows about called allied health. And allied health is like the non-nursing, non-physician part of healthcare. So if you go to your doctor and they say, hey, well, you're like, well, my shoulder hurts. Like, okay, I need an MRI. It's not a nurse or a doctor that takes that picture that's used for diagnosis. It's a rad tech. When you have surgery, if you look at a picture of an operating room, Grey's Anatomy, worst example. Actually, I will give Grey's Anatomy a little bit of props because they are trying to highlight their surge techs a little bit more. But when you look at an operating room, most people will say, well, everybody in there's a doctor or a nurse. In reality, there's maybe one doctor, maybe two. Anesthesia might be a doctor, and maybe a nurse. The nurse is the non-sterile person in the room who circulates and assists the operative team. But usually that person standing either right next to that surgeon or right across from that surgeon, that's me. I got my hands in your junk, in your parts, moving them all around, retracting, trying to stay one step ahead of that surgeon and anticipate the needs of that surgeon and that patient to make sure that you have a very safe surgical experience. It's a very anonymous career. Nobody like thanks their surge tech. I mean, we have a week in September that nobody remembers. It's one of those things like, people will write letters to their surgical team and it's like, oh, thank you, doctors. Thank you, nurses. And it's like, well, I was the one holding your heart, So, but it's a very anonymous career, which also lends to the fact that it's very, very, very in demand. There are probably close to 400 job openings across just the state of Michigan right now. There are 12 surge tech programs in the state of Michigan, and none of us have full cohorts, and so it's a very rewarding career if you're not looking for constant pats on the back, because you do make a difference in somebody's life in real time. With medicine, maybe you start a new regimen or a new therapy and you have to wait to see what's going to happen. But with surgical technology and surgery in general, you get to see that difference in real time. Somebody comes in with a broken femur, they're going to leave with it fixed. If they come in with a brain tumor, they're going to leave with that tumor as resected as much as possible. So you get to make that difference in real time. And also, it's always a 1-to-1 patient ratio because surgery is not a spectator sport. You don't get to have, there's nobody in there, watching. It's just you and that patient and that surgical team. So that's the other reason. It's a really good fit. It's a really neat area of medicine that not a lot of people know about.
Looks like Jennifer put herself in for a plug for later in the year.
I was going to say the same thing. I was like, okay, so September, Surgical Tech Week.
Yeah, it's like the second or third week in September. It's Surgical Technologist Week. It's often forgotten because you have like Nurses Month and Nurses Day and Doctors Day and the Year of the Nurse and the Year of the Doctor. And then you have like these allied health professionals who are like, hey, don't forget about us.
I want to send us out with a little bit of positive words of affirmation. And so, Kate, do you have anything else before we go out? I guess not, Kate.
What? I'm sorry. My phone, everything was blowing up. Like my other screen went, then I was closing it. Someone commented on
any party shots. Any party shots.
Oh, well, I am glad that Jennifer was able to be with us. Thank you so much. I think the conversation was great. And if you have a young girl or a teen daughter or someone that is looking for opportunity, they should watch this replay. It was great. And I'm looking forward to next week. And I'll be gone in a couple weeks, just a reminder, Michael J.
Yeah.
It calls.
So thanks again, Jennifer, for being with us. And if you hang on, you can be part of the after show. But right now, we'd like to give everybody some positive thoughts as we leave today.
You are beautiful. You are smart. You are funny. You are kind. You are unique. You are worthy of love and affection. You are never too much, and you are always enough. You are precious. You are a diamond, a rose, a pearl, the most stunning of all God's creation. You are worth more than you could ever imagine. Worth more than the numbers on the scale, or the hair product you use, or the shoes you wear. More than how many girls wish they were you, or how many guys wish they had you. More than the price tags on your clothes, or the percentage at the top of your math test, or even the number of followers you have on Twitter. Your worth surpasses all earthly things, because in the eyes of the Lord God, you are loved, and you are worth dying for. Regardless of who you think you are. Whether you model in a magazine, or you model pottery with grandma. Whether you're on the hot list or the not list. Whether you're head cheerleader or a high school dropout. Whether you're Miss Popular or you've never had anyone you could call a friend. Whether you love yourself and love your life, or you can't stand to look in the mirror and you feel as if everything in your life is falling apart. Whether you're such a winner or you feel like the world's biggest failure, regardless of who you think you are. The reality is that you deserve someone who would give up their life for you, because you are powerful and strong and capable. Read about the women in the Bible: Esther, Ruth, Martha, Mary. These women changed the world forever, and inside of you, each and every one of you is a woman with that same power and that same strength and that same world-changing capability. And your responsibility is to find that woman and to set that woman free. This is who you are. And any voices in your mind that try and tell you differently are from the enemy. And the next time you hear them, this is what you say. You say, "Nuh-uh, not me, Satan. I am a daughter of the living God, cherished, loved, and adored above all things by the Creator of all things, for the glory of Him who is greater than all things. I am awesome." And please, don't you forget it.